Hey everybody, welcome to I Have Questions. I'm Sam.
I'm Alex.
Yay, and we're here to talk about movies that we like somewhat and all the problems we have with them. We haven't done that intro in a while.
Yeah, but I mean, we really haven't been talking in those terms at all.
But this month we did movies that we like.
We're doing Guillermo Del Toro.
Yay, finally!
We're doing Devil's Backbone first, Pan's Labyrinth, and Hellboy in that order. And the only reason we're doing that order specifically is because, well, Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth share a spiritual source, which is the Spanish Civil War, or rather, leading up to Franco's Spain.
Yeah, which I didn't know about, so I did research.
Of course, because we're U.S. educated, so they don't give a shit about the rest of the world.
Nope.
Yep. Does it involve the U.S.? No? Oh, fuck it then.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't need to be in our history books.
Like, we spent so much time covering World War II, which I think is hilarious, because it's just like, really, World War I is... We covered World War I, don't get me wrong, but it's just like...
Not nearly as much.
Yeah, which is funny, because World War I is the most shaping event of the past 100 fucking years.
Yeah.
It has shaped all your politics, not including the Roman Empire.
All of our international relations.
It's true.
Basically, yeah. Alright, so let's talk about Devil's Backbone.
Movie begins with our narration from Casares, the old man, talking about what's a ghost on there. And this is a theme that kind of permeates the movie as well, whether it be the actions or inactions of people, and what makes somebody, living or dead, human, I guess. But it's basically a movie that under the backdrop of under the Spanish Civil War on there. I'd like to say this is right before Franco wins. I think if I recall correctly.
Let me see. When was the?
It was like
it's 1939.
Because they. So it's not quite done yet.
Yeah. But it's well, at this point the Republicans are not doing well.
Yeah.
In the movie they're losing.
Yeah.
Like, so it's they think it's getting close to the end of the war because the rebellion is not doing very well.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, for our fellow Americans, the Republicans are the good guys in this because not everything abides by U.S. politics.
Yeah.
Nationalists were were Franco's side. So
the nationalists are the right wing and equivalent of right wing. And the Republicans were the equivalent of left wing.
Yes, in U.S. standards.
Yes, and it is very, very intensive violent war from what we've read.
Yes, because it got to that point where everyone just dehumanizes everyone.
Yeah, where it's basically the other side they're not humans. We shouldn't care about them, and we should kill them on sight because they're just rebels.
Yep.
So
and that plays in later on. We'll come into that too as well as we get to it.
Yeah.
So we open up a child.
So we can see a kid lying on the ground, just bleeding out of his head, and I guess his friend is looking over him, like freaking out. And then the next scene, the kid is dropped into water. And in the beginning of the movie, you don't really know. I thought the other kid put him in there, and I was like, so you're just going to drop a kid in the... You're not going to tell anybody that your friend just died? Because, like I said, I hadn't seen this movie. I didn't know anything about it. So, I was like, okay, does he just drop this boy in the water? Did you just kill this kid? So basically for half the movie, I thought that this, like, one of the other boys killed the kid because I didn't know.
Yeah, the movie kind of makes it intentional to wrong foot you about it too.
Yeah.
Where they... Well,
it does that. It's a lot of, no, here's the twist kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not overtly so, like, where the person who committed the crime is, like, an absolute dick. But just somebody who's dealing with personal trauma and in the best way he can.
He's kind of a dick, though.
Well, yeah.
He's definitely a dick.
Yeah, so kids deal with shit. They outwardly project.
Yeah.
Whether it's positive or negative, it sometimes doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because they're kids. They don't have all the experience to draw off of.
Yeah. So, moving on. So then our next start is the main character, the child being brought to the orphanage. not knowing that he's staying there. Which you know what? I always hate that when I see it in movies, or TV shows or whatever, when adults don't tell children what's going on.
Yeah.
They just kind of leave them in the dark, thinking that it'll be better for the kids not to know. But it's just like, you just dropped this kid off at the orphanage. He didn't know that he was staying.
Yeah.
And then you just left. What would be more traumatizing? For you to take a child to the orphanage and say, hey, I'm going to be leaving you here for a while. And instead of just being like, hey, we're just going to come here and then leave. And then you leave the kid behind. Because the kid, he's like, oh, I'm here with my tutor. We're only here just, he has some business with her, and then we're going to leave. And the other kids are like, yeah, sure, buddy. You're just here with your tutor.
They've been there.
Yeah, they're like, we've seen this guy come here because he's dropped people at this orphanage off before, so they know the deal.
Oh yeah.
And
but by the way, the person he drops off is Carlos, who is that's our main person, our main protagonist, essentially.
Yeah, and he's adorable and really naive when he gets dropped off, but compared to other orphans in the war, he seems pretty naive. He doesn't know his dad's dead.
No, they haven't told him that, and actually, he doesn't technically find out.
He never finds out.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever finds out that his dad was dead, because they're like, we haven't told him yet. It's like, once again, adults, maybe something you should tell the kid, instead of him thinking his father's going to come back, his father's going to come back. Like, there's so many movies we watch where the kids are like, my parents are going to come back for me eventually. No, they're not, because they're dead. Because it happened to Annie too. When I watched Annie, then she was like, oh, my parents will come back for me. No, they're not. He gets a little friend group, but he also meets the bullies, who we find out later the reason why he's acting out so much is because he witnessed his friend's murder.
And in our flashback scene to that, he seems to be just as jovial as any of the other kids and affable, but dealing with trauma, as a child.
Yeah, and he can't talk about it because, was it Jacinto?
Yeah,
Jacinto made him swear that he wouldn't tell anyone, and I mean.
Well, actually, he didn't know. Jacinto never saw him.
No, Jacinto, he put the kid in the well.
Oh yeah, the one who died, but not.
Oh yeah,
he knew about Jaime.
Yeah, he didn't know about Jaime.
Santi is the kid who was killed. The one we see in the beginning of the film as our intro.
He's a fresh ghost.
Yes, we get
a very fresh ghost.
We get brief glimpses of him throughout the film, and the specter of his malice. Essentially, he doesn't kill anyone.
No, he just kind of fucks around, scares people, and he's very attached to Carlos. Just kind of follows him everywhere he goes, and kind of keeps whispering to him that
everybody's gonna die.
Yeah, all of you are gonna die and stuff. So we think, as the audience, it has something to do with that bomb that's in the courtyard.
Yeah,
because they keep referencing back to it.
Yeah,
because it's a diffused bomb.
Supposedly.
Well, supposedly, the kids say they can hear it ticking, but
we get every time they go by it, though, it has a sound that permeates with it.
Yeah.
So even we don't know. We're told it's diffused, but every time the kids are around it, it seems to still be active.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of war. It is it's an ever-present symbol of war in a place that is isolated.
Yeah.
So the night that Santi dies, Jaime experiences the bomb, because that's the night the planes fly over and the bomb falls.
Yeah.
And it falls right in front of him. I feel like the bomb is just a larger metaphor for just the ever-presence of war that's actually surrounding the circumstances of their daily existence. They're kind of isolated, so it helps with that. But it never goes away. It's still present
and
there.
Also, kids are constantly being dropped off because their parents are dying in the war. So they get sent. So the Republican rebels keep bringing these kids here.
Yeah.
When they come to pick up gold and stuff.
Yeah.
For the orphanage.
Yeah, our main Republican loyalists or whatever are Casares and Carmen, who work at the orphanage and take the kids in. They do their best because they teach them. They're a school essentially. They teach.
Which, I mean, yeah, back in the day, a lot of orphanages also had to function as schools. Because there's nowhere around the orphanage for the kids to go to. They're a couple days walk away from
It's like
the town.
it's a full day's walk,
Yeah, a full day's walk. And
which
so
makes
they
it
have a
probably
couple workers there who are also teachers, and they call the head lady, she's the headmistress or whatever. And she's complaining about, we're running out of food, like we don't have enough food to feed all these kids, and like, why do you keep bringing the kids here, because we can't afford to have them anymore. But Jacinto knows that there's gold somewhere stashed, and which that is why he is sleeping with the headmistress, which is so freaking gross because he was a kid in this orphanage.
Yeah.
And she's not young.
No.
And was it Casares?
Mm-hmm. The old man?
Yeah. Casares knows that something is he kind of feels like something is up, because he tells Carlos, like, because they're bottling some alcohol that's supposed to help with impotence, and then Carlos sees him drink it himself, so that's supposed to be your sign that, okay, maybe.
Well, Carlos doesn't see him drink it. Like he's out of the. Carlos doesn't.
Oh,
see him
we see him drink it.
yeah. Well, I can't remember. Like, I think it was when he was being punished for. So the first night that Carlos is in there, the ghost visits him essentially, and it knocks over the water jugs. Jaime, it's like, you knocked over our water jugs, and so
Jaime's the bully.
The quote unquote
bully. Quote unquote. He's called the bully, but he's not really. Well, when you look at all the documentation and stuff, they introduce him as like, oh, he's being bullied. He's not really being bullied. He's just kind of being tested.
The kid coping with trauma.
Well, I mean, in the beginning, he seems very much like a bully. Like, he takes away his comic books. He makes him go get the water jug, and like leaves him.
Well, Carlos is cool because he calls him out.
And he confronts him with a knife. Yeah. Let's not forget about that part too.
Carlos even tells when they have to go get the water, Carlos is like, calls him out on it. It's just like, say some people don't make it back. It's just like, well, if you're brave enough, why don't you come with me?
Yeah.
Unless you're chicken too, and so it makes.
Yeah, they use chicken shit a lot, and also from the subtitles I got, he calls him a queer. Quite a bit.
Oh, what's the?
Who is it? Is it from the subtitles? I was just like, what? What is with that insult?
Cabron.
Yeah.
That's like cabron isn't necessarily fag, but.
Yeah.
But it does come up as that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the subtitles were being nice, and they were calling him queer.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my translation had fag in it.
No, mine had queer, so they were being kind of nice. But yeah, so Carlos gets caught for the water by Jacinto, who has anger issues. This is kind of when we first see the extent of his weird anger issues. Well, and he doesn't rat anybody out. He takes the punishment, and they get in trouble again.
Which is great on Casares for like figuring it out who is responsible for it.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, see all the boys? They're starving. They're all face down their plates. Let's look at the first people who raise their heads when he passes by. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who worked with them. Sure enough, the 3 other boys who like went out, either one of them went, or Jaime, because he went out with them, and the 2 or 3 others who fired slingshots at the jug he was holding to cause them to get stirred and get caught, all raise their heads.
Yep.
And then they get punished, which is like they have to clean up some stuff. And at one point, I believe is like that's where we get Carlos in the it's not the apothecary necessarily, but like he gets to see some of the old man stuff, and that's where it's like, see this jug, see this is where we get introduced to the title of the movie to a degree, the Devil's Backbone. It's just like they believe it's witches, but it's just a medical anomaly. This is just something that happens from time to time. It's not, they think it's superstition, but really it's just science, as you can see, as I am a man of science. And it's like some people will still drink this brew of fluid because the old stuff isn't, or it's just a mixture of spices and things like that. But some people will pay good money for it. That's what helps us stay afloat. So he's like, pours a shot. It's like, unless you don't believe me. So did you really see a ghost? It's like, no, I didn't. It's like, okay. And then Carlos leaves. And then the old man's just like, humming along to it. And it's like nodding his head. It's like, yeah, I'm going to drink this.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they believe it cures impotence. And it's like, because the old man is, and kind of ties in with him wanting Carmen. to a degree.
Yeah, they're kind of romantic,
It's
but
I feel like it's all him showing.
yeah, it's
She still abides by it to a degree because I mean she doesn't rebuke him for any of the sweet nothings he whispers through the wall to her.
yeah. I mean, it's a very like you can kind of feel the sexual tension, but it does seem more on his side, like when he the way he speaks and he looks and stuff. It looks at her, but she's yeah, she obviously doesn't reciprocate as much.
Mm.
But she just lets him go on with it, which
It's also her.
ladies, that's just as dangerous. Letting a guy continue to go along with it if you don't feel the same
Yeah.
way.
It's also her guilt,
Yeah.
which she mentions thoroughly, like when post 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 coitus.
Hey, I
Sure.
love that word. I'm sorry.
God,
It's the best word. It's the best way to say
coitus.
sex.
It's true.
Sex is such a cute, crude word.
Coital relations.
Yeah.
After her and Jacinto
Do it.
do it, yeah. Post coitus, you hear her say, "It's like, why you don't want to tell him about me?" It's like, it's not because I'm. I can't remember what she said. It's like I'm not such and such, but I am ashamed.
Yeah.
And
Which
you're still
and
doing it.
also like Jacinto is in a relationship with Conchita.
Yeah.
Like the other girl in the movie who just gets fucking tossed aside because um she's in her mind she thinks that they're gonna run away and get married.
Yeah.
And like meanwhile, Jacinto's sleeping with your boss.
Yeah.
Just but
For him,
in,
all ends justify the mean. All means justify whatever end he wants. Like
yeah.
he does not care.
He doesn't. He doesn't care about Conchita. Obviously, we see
Yeah.
later on in the movie. He doesn't care about Carmen. He just wants to find the gold so he can leave.
Yeah.
And even Carmen, she suspects it after a
Yeah.
while. Like she knows, like something's up. Like there's no reason for this guy to be like going after me and
Yeah.
you know still having sex with me. And also they both know that he's been cruel to the kids, but they haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, until later on in the movie, they haven't really seen how cruel he can be to the kids, so they can't call him out on anything. And also, he's one of the orphans too, so they still kind of feel like you know taking care of him and stuff like that. But yeah, so then we get past. So the kids have another confrontation, and Jaime pulls a knife on Carlos. It's a kind of like an intimidation tactic.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's has no real plans
No.
to stab him, and then I forget does he get does he sneak out again or something? Something happens and they get caught again, and then Jacinto gets the knife. And instead of being a normal freaking adult, he threatens Carlos and cuts him in his face because anger issues. But it's yeah, so it's it's really weird because like obviously right off the bat I didn't really like Jacinto's character, and then of
No,
course
we're not supposed to.
I mean yeah we're not supposed to, but I can't abide by people who are cruel to kids, especially like orphans.
I feel like the whole point of Jacinto's character is just like it's not just his personal self interest.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess we're supposed to view him as part of Franco's Spain, even though it's clear that he really only cares about enriching himself and leaving as quickly as possible. Everything else be damned. No matter who it is or what the cost is. I feel like we're supposed to project onto him that he is a nationalist to a degree. And of course, any end justify the means because they're right and everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone that's in my way is wrong, even kids.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of it when he actually like cut Carlos's face, that's when I realized, oh, he's taking out his anger on the kids. Like he's taking out his feeling of he feels trapped at the place. He feels like, you know, he deserves better. he deserved better when he was young. He wants to get out, but he doesn't have anywhere to go. He doesn't have any money to go with.
Yeah.
And he thinks he deserves the gold for sleeping with Carmen. He deserves to be able to leave her surviving this place. And he takes it out on the kids. And I think, when he actually like cut Carlos's face, that was like, oh, okay. That's what that is.
Well, he wants to kill his own past.
Yeah.
Which you can't really do.
That's a lot of people. I'm going to change and forget about it. No, because clearly your entire experience as an orphan at this orphanage has shaped you and your personality.
So Carmen and Casares also store gold for the Republicans.
They're sympathizers.
Yeah, they're sympathizers for them, and basically it acts as part of their war chest to a degree to help fund them. But of course, they can't really do anything with it. They need medicine, they need food, but they can't use the gold to really pay for anything. It raises too much of an eyebrow, obviously. And of course, this is what Jacinto wants. Like he wants the gold, and so that's the reason he's shipping Carmen is because he's in there, he's naked. Hey, there's the headmistress's keys.
Yeah, so he steals the keys when they have sex.
And to swap them out.
Yeah, swaps them out and tries to find the keys. She tries to find out which key is the right one, which we later find out it's...
No, the gold was in the safe. It
was in the safe, but the key was like in her leg? Was it in her prosthetic or something?
The gold ended up being in her leg.
Okay.
Well, when they were about to leave.
Yeah, that's true. When they were about to leave, so it wasn't always in the safe.
Yeah, it was in the safe at one point because we do get that shot, and that's when shit goes down.
Yeah. So after Carlos gets freaked out again by the ghost, he hides in the linen closet. And then that's when, because every time Carlos gets caught, he doesn't rat on Jaime or anything. So slowly Jaime is like gaining a little bit more respect for this kid, because he could have just ratted him out at any point. So eventually Jaime opens up and tells him about Santi.
Yeah.
And tells him about what happened.
Well, Carlos had suspicions about Jaime because, like, one night he snooped into the Jaime shit and saw his sketchbook.
Yeah, he saw the sketchbook with the drawing that looks eerily similar to the kid that's haunting him.
Well, actually, I think it said Santi on it.
Yeah, and it said Santi on it, obviously. So yeah, finally, Jaime opens up and tells him like what's happening. So they're finally able to connect to each other and then open up about the ghosts and now they're friends, sort of.
Yeah. Our main twist, I guess, is when we finally stuff is kind of coming to a head. What is it? Casares was in town selling the fetal juice, as it were, and he sees, I think it was Ayala. It was either Ayala or Dominguez, which are the two of the guys who brought Carlos to the school, being executed.
Yeah.
Just it's like, nope, turn around. Just being casually executed, and the guy next to him is like, oh, do you know any of these people? And of course, Casares has to pretend he doesn't.
He freaks out, comes back to the orphanage and says, we need to leave. Like, things are creeping in.
Yeah.
Like, we need to leave soon because they're going to be coming knocking on our door when they make connections, which we never find out if, connections have been made between the rebels and the orphanage, but Casares is already spooked, so they're getting ready to leave, and then Jacinto is like, okay, well, time's running out. And so he gets really desperate to find the gold because obviously they're going to be leaving. The gold's going to be leaving.
Yeah.
So that's when he gets, he sets the place on fire.
Well, he sets the place on fire after he's like foiled, essentially.
Yeah. So obviously, like, he doesn't find it.
Yeah.
And so he starts getting really pissed off. And yeah, that's when he sets the fire. And then his girl finds him.
Yeah.
She sees him basically, like, he's throwing gas around the kitchen. And she's like, what are you doing? Freaking out. And she stabs him. Shoot him? Did she shoot him or stab him? Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. She has a gun. She shoots him. She shoots him in the arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. She gets stabbed later. So she threatens him with a gun because he's about to burn the place down because he's really fucking pissed off about not getting the gold. And as they're like moving the kids out, and of course the place basically explodes because
Yeah.
it hits some gas
Yeah.
tanks.
One of the caretakers tries to put it out, and Carmen is right behind her. And then some of the kids, out of nowhere, just come into the kitchen as well. So they're basically all dead for the most part.
Yeah, that was hard.
So that was so rough because it's like, I mean, a lot of people still were heavily injured, even those who weren't in the room necessarily, but a lot of people died.
Yeah.
Um,
And then that's when we find out that that's what the ghost was referring to. It was referring to the place basically exploding, and not the bomb, which we thought
yeah.
was going to be the thing that happened. We thought.
I didn't think it was.
I don't know. I kind of thought it would be because the way they kept focusing on it throughout the movie.
The bomb is war.
Yeah.
The bomb is the backdrop of war. Even this isolated
Alex
place.
is better at looking deeper into the symbolism than I am, obviously, because I was just like, oh my, okay, the kids are maybe hearing it, and maybe the adults are like, maybe the adults want it to be diffused, so they're not hearing it.
Yeah.
And I thought at first, like, okay, maybe the kids are hearing it and the adults are ignoring it because
considering how much they lie to the kids about
everything
else around it.
Exactly, that's what I thought. I thought they were just lying to the kids again.
Yeah, so the kids hear it because they know the war's there.
Yeah,
but the adults aren't acknowledging it. So yeah, the bomb goes off. Everyone is injured. Everyone's hearing is shit. Sinto has gone away. Like he after it went off, he left.
and by the way, he
got his friends.
He definitely made sure to rub it in Caceres' face that he had been banging Carmen. That's like because he rubbed it into his face because he was so mad about not finding the gold, and then that's when he torched the kitchen and was shot by the woman who thought she was going to marry him. Yeah, but for some reason they don't leave after that. Some of the kids stay behind.
Well, they have to because what's her name? Has to go to town because a lot of kids are injured. A lot of people are injured. Casares is bleeding out basically.
Yeah.
And so the one who thought she was going to leave with Jacinto ends up Conchita ends up heading. It's like, look, it's a day's walk. I can get help, but if I leave now, so I'll have to be there by the next day. So she goes, ends up running into Jacinto on the way back because
with his thugs,
with his thug buddies because they want the gold too. And basically Jacinto tells her, it's just like, did you really think that? How did you think you'd pay for a farm? Where did you think the money was going to come from?
Yeah.
On there. So apologize to me. The person who's been the most greedy, the most selfish, tramples on people any way he can. Not any way he can, because he all sees it as justification for his own enrichment or betterment and sees no one else as another human being.
For Jacinto, everything's happening to him.
Yeah.
Like, this is happening to me. I was the one who had to grow up in this orphanage. Not all the other kids that are here too. Like I am the one who has to trick this lady to get this gold. I am the one who's suffering. I am the one who has to do all this stuff. I am the one who needs to change my life. He doesn't see, like, it's just his world, and everyone else is
an
obstacle or a cog in the machine of his life kind of thing. So when he gets angry and enraged, the first thing, he blames other people. He takes it out on other people because he just sees it as, these things are happening to me. I'm the one suffering. I'm the one who has to do something about it. And that's just the thing. It's just like, there are human beings like that. There are a lot of people like that. However, most human beings have a moment where they're just like, I think I need to calm down a little bit.
Am I the baddie?
Well, yeah. They don't really show this in a lot of movies, but most people tend to stop and be like, am I the villain?
No, that you're being generous.
I mean, not am I the villain? Well, most people tend to have at least the split second of, this is kind of wrong. A lot of people ghost over it. A lot of people get over that hump and be like, it doesn't matter. But he doesn't have that moment of like, shit, like, kind of wrong. But you would think he has that moment after he kills a bunch of kids.
No, he doesn't, because
Yeah.
that's the whole point of it in general. It's not so much that like the point he gets it is when so he kills Conchita.
Conchita, he
He
stabs
he
her.
kills Conchita. It's just like because he felt wronged, I guess. Um, they go there. They lock the boys up. The boys devise a plan, sharpen some sticks and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
they full on like revolt, and they
yeah,
get like glass
yeah.
and
Well,
stuff, and they're just like,
to sharpen out like sticks,
yeah,
and when they're lording over the fire because they can't open the safe, or they open the safe, but there's nothing inside of it besides
yeah,
the pictures because they already took the gold. They moved the gold somewhere else, and he doesn't know where. They're going through the photos, and Carmen characterized Jacinto as the lonely prince, or the prince without a kingdom.
mm.
Um, and it's funny because his pursuit is for gold.
Yeah,
And that comes up a little bit later. But it almost seems like he's about to cry when he sees that photo because it's a picture of him, and you see him like actually smiling, like legit smiling at like the child he was and what he's lost and what he never could what he ended up never having or having a chance to get.
yeah,
And his vain pursuit for gold is what ultimately kind of weighs him down
yeah.
towards the end.
It's just like, oh,
Hmm.
just what do we call it? Justice
I don't know.
or irony?
It's I don't. I feel like it's a little bit of both, if nothing else, because so the kids managed to get out of the room. They send a kid through the window, breaks his ankle or sprains his ankle, and the kid says Casares let them out, even though Casares died upstairs earlier.
Yeah, well, we kind of goes over the fact, but Kasara, he's so after the kids, they take all the wounded inside of the building, and they send Cochita out to the village. He sits out in front of the orphanage with a gun in his lap.
Yeah, but he sits at a
Basically,
window.
well, sits out a window at the orphanage with a gun in his lap, basically kind of
He's like, oh.
being the guard waiting for
He even
Jacinto to
says,
comes back. But he's bleeding out, like he is dying at this
yeah,
moment, and he's just kind of waiting for it. But he's like in the mindset of, I know I'm dying, but I'm going to like protect these kids till my last breath, which he does
yeah.
even after his
Yeah.
last breath.
Well, he says that an important part too. It's just like, and it's part of our beginning and end of the movie where it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
what's a ghost? Like something that lingers on or something that has action. And he even says like, I spent my whole life doing everything halfway, but as God is my witness,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know if he says that. I can't remember if he said that specifically. It's like, I will be here for you. And sure
Yeah.
enough, him letting them out, whether he was alive or dead. Although,
Yeah, we don't. It's not really shown.
yeah, although Jaime closes his eyes before any of that happens.
Yeah.
Like Jaime is first to see that he's dead, closes his eyes with his hand, and then later on we find Casares' handkerchief downstairs in front of the door that they were
Yeah.
trapped behind. So they get freed. They bait Jacinto into the cellar because Santi said he wants him. It's like, what do you? Carlos had asked
Yeah.
Santi's ghost, like, what do you want? It's like, I want Jacinto. It's like,
Yeah, I want the guy who killed me. The reason I'm lingering around
yeah,
this this orphanage pretty much.
yeah. And so it's like, really? Some spears? That's it? He points the shotgun, and of course, Jaime pops out of the side and stabs him in the.
Like a fucking boss.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I cheered a little bit when like I was
yeah,
like, fuck yes. When they did that.
yeah,
My neighbor must think I'm insane.
yeah. They all stab him, and they push him into the water where he had. So he did end up finding the gold after his friends abandoned him.
Yeah, he
Because
did find the gold in the
Carmen's
the
leg.
foot. Yeah, yeah, it is pretty much half a
Yeah.
leg.
Well, Carmen references her own leg. It's just like, I hate to be reminded of this because it's constantly weighing me down, something dragging me around
Yeah.
down there. And it's hard to tell if it's something she lost because of wartime, but I mean, that definitely ties in with the gold and what happens later on to Sinto is just like, hey, it weighs her down. But that's also because it's like the burden of what she's had to deal with war and everything else
Yeah,
around it.
her husband was fighting in war,
Yeah.
and she said that because she commented in the beginning of the movie how So when Ayala said, "Oh, your husband was very brave for fighting the war," she said, "No, I'm brave for continuing
Yeah.
when he's dead and taking care of these kids." So it's kind of implied that she lost her leg in the war, but we don't really know because obviously they're sympathizers for the Republicans.
Yeah.
But Casares doesn't seem like anyone who's ever participated
Yeah.
in any kind of battle. So we don't really know for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is very, I wouldn't say resentful of having the wooden leg, but she definitely is like,
She's burdened by it.
yeah, she does feel very burdened by it.
Um, and,
And
and so Sinto gets pushed into the water and subsequently is essentially pulled down by Santi and the gold
yeah,
as well. So the past lingers, the past pulls him down, and his greed ends up partially being part of the reason he's dead.
yeah.
Um, I would
I mean,
say,
I would say it's the sole reason why he's dead
yeah,
is because of his greed. His greed is what got him into this situation in the first place.
yeah,
You know, his greed is what made him so like when he couldn't find the gold, when he got so enraged because he couldn't get
yeah,
the gold, that's when he blew up the orphanage.
yeah.
And then his greed brought him back to the orphanage.
I would actually say it's resentment more than anything else.
Mm.
Because Carmen puts him as well, final thoughts, I guess, because of the last bit of the film.
Yeah, basically.
I feel like, well, don't get me wrong, the movie does not spend any time really sympathizing with him until like one scene, and that's when he sees the photo of himself, and it's kind of,
But it's too late.
well, it's not about sympathizing with him because the whole film is about the Spanish War. Maybe not as much as Pan's Labyrinth necessarily,
Yeah.
but it's more. I feel like it's more charitable to Jacinto in some ways compared to how Pan's Labyrinth views its antagonist.
True. Yeah.
Because it's just like the prince without a kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
and he sees the images of himself, and you see him like basically almost smiling, and it's like, this is what I could have had. This is the life that was taken from me, and everything else.
There we go again with the whole taken from me thing.
Yeah,
It's just like it wasn't
yeah. He's still there
taken
are
just from you. Like it was taken from a lot of people.
yeah, and that's
Like,
and that's war, and
yeah.
and that's the movie framing it as that. It's like everyone's in his inhumanity is still, it's not an excuse for what happened to him or the violence he uh, visits on other people, but he's still a byproduct
Yeah.
of the environment around it, and the bomb is ever ticking, always there.
Yeah. No, now that you put it that way, I can see it more like that. Because the bomb is just their constant reminder. It's just like no matter how you try to push those thoughts away, everything in that orphanage reminds you that there's a war going on.
Yeah.
Like all not I don't know if all of the kids were orphans because of the war, but from what Ayala and the headmistress implies, a lot of those kids are there because of the war.
Oh yeah.
Um but there's also something that I've noticed for these two movies in Pan's Labyrinth and for Devil's Backbone. The villains aren't, they're not supernaturally evil. Like it's just they're like this because of how they grew up, and there is a human in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Like there are glimpses of it. Obviously, we see it more with Jacinto, but it's just he's a byproduct of all the shitty things that have been happening around him, and just taking it a little bit more to the extreme to become the villain. And I don't know, I kind of hate and love those kinds of villains who are like they're going through their own stuff. They're not just evil for the sake of evil.
Yeah.
Like I all this energy, this negative energy has been building up and it's just exploding in all the wrong ways. But this is the only way that they know how to kind of express it. And I kind of like that more as opposed to the villain who's just cruel because they like being cruel.
With bad writing.
Yeah, it's bad. Right? It's just like this person's evil and they love being evil because evil is so fun. It's just like, no, this person is bad because all this shit has been happening to them, and this is the only way that they can feel like they're in control of something is by taking out their aggression on somebody else.
Yep.
So, which is more often than not the true villain in life.
Yep.
That's how true villains are made in the real world.
On a long enough scale, people are victim to the circumstances that surround them.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are choices they get to make, and sometimes those are choices they
Yeah.
don't get to make. you are privileged if you ever get to make the right choice or have the opportunity to make it, because sometimes it's not made for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, give it a watch.
We were just like starting this off with the most depressing. Don't worry, they get slightly
I feel
less
like,
depressing.
Honestly, I feel like Pan's Labyrinth is actually darker. But anyway, so.
But yeah, we'll end on a better note.
We're gonna take a break.
Yeah, and get some positivity back in our life, at least for another 15 minutes.
Whatever you say. All right, be right back.
And welcome back. So now we're going to talk about Pan's Labyrinth. Yay! Yeah. I love this movie.
Another film about the Spanish Civil War.
God, another depressing film.
Pretty much. The fascists won.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, the nationalists won.
They're fascists.
Pretty much.
They're fascists. They're even described as fascists in every description
that
you look for when you research this about the war.
It's still 30 years of victory, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so we get to see basically the worst side of the military with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the movie starts with the end, which, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about movies starting with the end? I never asked you. I know how I feel about it. I wish I had a camera on your face.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that conceit. But again, it's so our main character is Ophelia.
Adorable little girl.
She dies because that's as the film begins.
Yeah, and it's not even a spoiler. It's literally starts with her death.
Yeah. So everything in all our actions are leading up to that. Again, there's another film taking place in the backdrop of the Spanish Civil War, but in this case, the nationalists have already won. Ophelia and her mother Carmen are going to be with her stepfather, Vidal,
who she never really recognizes as her father.
No, of course not. Her father was a tailor, as she doesn't say it too much. I think it's only 3 times in the entire film.
Every time she says your father, she goes, my father is a tailor.
Yeah.
She's like, you mean the captain, because he's not my father. Yeah, so right off the bat, we understand Ophelia's relationship with the captain, and we also understand the mother's relationship with the captain. It's not a love thing. Like, this relationship is not based on love. He is only taking care of her because of the baby. And she references a lot of saying, like, because Ophelia's like, why did you marry him? And she goes, well, I was lonely. You'll never really understand. Once again, we get to that thing, like, people really underestimate children's capacity to see things. But, because she sees her mother's not happy with whatever's going on. She sees straight off the bat the captain's not a nice man. Like, why would you marry him? You're such a beautiful and kind woman. Why would you marry such a horrible person?
Ophelia's first introduction to him is she goes to shake his hand with her left hand, and he's just like, it's the wrong hand.
But the way he grabs her hand and like jolts her, and like pulls her close and says, that's the wrong hand. Not even saying like, oh, that's the wrong hand, and like laughs. He's very scary when he does it.
Yeah.
And I wrote in my notes, I was like, okay, well, we know the kind of person this guy is.
He's a machine. I mean, that's kind of the way he's projected as. He's a machine.
A very angry machine.
He is a machine of the nationalists. He doesn't question orders. He follows everything to a T. Any type of derision that could be sown, he doesn't tolerate.
Yeah. And Ophelia is basically the opposite of him in every way. She gets distracted easily. She doesn't think things through at all. She just kind of goes with the flow of everything that's going around, and everything is very whimsical. Like, despite the fact that like very real things are happening to her and have very real consequences, and she understands the consequences, but she's still going along with this whimsical story kind of as a escapist kind of thing. Like, she wants magic to be real. She wants something good to be happening, because right now, like, nothing good is happening. And we get introduced early on to how cruel Vidal is when they find some hunters in the woods. So the soldiers find some hunters in the woods, and they're all on alert for the rebels, because there's supposedly rebels. Well, not supposedly, there definitely are rebels hiding in the woods. So they find these two guys saying, "Oh, they had guns. They had guns." And it's a father and son, and the son is saying, "My father's a hunter. He's just hunting for food." And they don't believe them because they're carrying around like an almanac of papers.
They're carrying around a lot of it was stuff that would have been seen as revolutionary.
Yeah.
So
but it just turned out to be stuff that was being used to soak up the blood of the rabbits that were in his bag. Because he says, no, he's just hunting rabbits. He's hunting rabbits. So we see Vidal just getting really angry because he's being interrupted while he's speaking. That's the real reason why he's angry. And he just takes a bottle and beats the son's face in.
Yep.
And shoots the father.
Gruesomely and viciously pounds the dude's face in, kills the father, and then shoots the prone son.
Yeah.
And then
we find the rabbit.
Yeah, he rifles through the bag really quickly. It's like, inspect better.
Yeah, he's like, maybe search these guys before you call me.
Yeah.
So, and that's when we like, oh, this guy is a psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, because that was, like, you went from 0 to 100 just because he was interrupting you as you were talking. Because the guy was, like, I mean, but it's understandable why they're scared. But yeah, so, oh, we also get introduced to the maid.
Oh, yes, Mercedes.
Mercedes. Who is a rebel spy. She's basically the informant, kind of passing on information of whatever's going on in the house to the rebels, who the leader is her brother.
Mm-hmm. Pedro,
yes. And God, there's sloppy rebels. They're so fucking sloppy. They leave the antibiotics. First of all, they don't cover the fire after they douse it.
And that bothered me, though, honestly, in the movie, because it's an ampule. That's a traditional means by which medicine is transported. It's like Vidal finding one later on that happens to match doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that also got me really pissed off. I was just like, it's not like every doctor has different designs for those vials. That I don't know why he connected. So that's when we start seeing Ophelia going to the labyrinth. After she gets kind of settled in. Mm-hmm. She goes into the labyrinth and finds out that she might be the princess.
Yeah. So after this encounter, she's tasked with 3 tests. The first of which is to go into a tree that is old and feed old and dying, and feed a toad these 3 magical stones that'll force it to cough up the a key that the fawn has requested. So she's able to do this. She goes down to this tree.
Gets just disgustingly dirty.
Yeah, tricks the toad into believing that she's holding bugs in her hand, and of course, because the toad is so greedy, it doesn't care. Mm-hmm. Because Ophelia's scolding it. It's like, don't you feel the least bit guilty for getting so fat while you suck the life out of this?
Metaphor, symbolism.
I had to look. In fairness, though, we are outsiders when it comes to this, so I had to look a lot of this stuff up for this. Even I feel like Devil's Backbone is definitely broader in its symbolism. This is definitely more specific to the Spanish War Spanish Civil War that I had to look up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So the toad is, as my understanding, is now it's supposed to be the upper class on there, and it's just siphoning off of the lower class on there. And so she tricks it, it vomits up its innards.
So, yeah, and it basically deflates.
Yeah. Inverts itself, and she gets the key.
Her dress that everyone has been being like, you're going to look so beautiful. Aren't you so beautiful? Her dress gets completely covered in mud, and she's completely covered in mud. Yeah. Which I thought she was going to be in more trouble for that.
Yeah.
But they actually managed to hide that from Vidal.
No.
She wasn't really expected at that dinner.
Yeah.
He didn't care if she was there or not anyway.
No. This is also where we get introduced to, this is where they have the supplies at this point. I like to think the supplies actually came in after this, because I knew they were coming. But it's like they start talking about, oh, these are the ration things. And even the guy with the church is just like, yeah, they should, be grateful, things like that. And it's funny because, of course, they're sitting before like a massive feast and are greedily eating away, and they're talking about rations on there. So it's like,
yeah, and it is kind of an odd thing to see just like they're sitting here, they're drinking wine, they're smoking, and eating all this food while he's passing out the ration cards. Like they're literally looking at ration cards and being like, this is not going to be enough for people. And then yeah, the guy from the church is like, oh, God will take them no matter what
Yeah.
when they die. And I'm just like, oh, what
As
fucking
yeah.
it's just spewing shit right
Yeah.
now.
Well, and one thing too is like the Catholic Church was a sponsor of Franco's Spain,
Yes.
so they were complicit in that. And in fairness, I don't believe this has ties necessarily to the Vatican. This is just a branch of the Spanish Catholicism, which kind of distanced itself, is my understanding. But anyway, so yeah, they're discussing this, and the only humanity in the room is Carmen, because it's just like, how did you happen to meet? Because it's like, how does a man such as Vidal meet Carmen?
Yeah.
And Carmen starts to talk about it. After her husband's death, Vidal would come by the shop for other things, and
No, he came before.
Yeah, he'd come before.
He'd come before to get his suits tailored.
Yeah.
And then the husband died, and she took over the shop, and then he came by again, and I guess she was, and that's know that's kind of where he cut off the story for it, because people were like, oh, it's kind of, because they bring it up like, how did it's like, isn't that odd that he just kept coming to the shop to see, because they're just like, this does seem pretty odd. How does a girl like you end up with a guy like him, kind of thing? Yeah. And that's where he completely just cuts off.
I'm sorry, my wife is from a different place. She likes to believe that people give a shit about things like this.
Yeah,
literally.
But they asked.
Yeah, they asked. Like, they were legitimately intrigued.
They wanted to know, and he was just like, I don't want this. This information isn't.
It's soft information, and I think that's what he hates, because it softens him, and he doesn't want that image to be broken of him being just like in control.
Yeah, and then we get the story about his father from someone else at the table who said he fought with his father, or knew his father.
I was just like, your father, it said that your father smashed his watch upon his death, so to tell a son of the exact moment of his death, or something.
So yeah, his son would
know how a man died, and when
a man died, and how brave he was, and then he just completely just threw that story out the window, be like, my father didn't own a watch. I was like, okay, like, you know what? It's just like, he just wants to cut himself off from any kind of humanity. He doesn't want people to believe that he's in love with someone, and he doesn't want people to believe that he cares about his father. Yet he puts a lot of emphasis into his son thinking about his father and caring about his father, but he doesn't want it to seem like he cares about his father, but he wants his son to care about him.
So he wants to erase his past, essentially. Again, another person who wants to erase his past. Even the softer parts of it.
But he also wants a legacy. Very confusing. But he's got a lot of screws loose with him.
He ends lives very, very casually, to say the least.
He's like, whenever he kills someone, it is quick. Yeah. Painful. Very painful, but it's very quick. He has no change of expression usually when it happens.
During the first raid that happens on there, a train gets blown up nearby. They can see the explosion. The group comes in, or the rebels come in and loot the storehouse on there for him. And this is when he notices that the lock was not broken; it was merely opened. Yeah. On there for it, which good on him for noticing, I guess.
Yeah, he's very attentive to everything that happens around. It's almost like eerily attentive. But yeah, so they do the first raid, and
some fleeing rebels get decimated, essentially, or destroyed.
And only caring if they have someone who's alive enough to talk, which they find.
And of course, the one they find is the one we get a brief glimpse of when Mercedes first goes to the rebel camp, is a gentleman who stutters.
Yeah. Oh, God, that makes you feel even bad.
Yeah, because Vidal even taunts him as much. It's just like, if you can count to 3 without stuttering, I will let you go. And he even tells his, like, subordinates, it's like, if I said this man can go free, would anyone question it? No, Capitan. Yeah. And he, of course, fails.
Because he's terrified.
Vidal talks to him about torturing him, essentially. It's like, we're going to start out and we're not going to be friends, because I can't trust you yet. He has a fucking hammer. Then he pulls out some pliers, and it's like, by here, we'll be close. But not quite brothers close.
And then he pulls out an ice pick.
Yeah, fucking ice pick.
And then he's like, at this point, we'll be as close as brothers.
Yeah.
and he tortures information out of him. There's also the doctor.
We skipped the second trial from the fawn, which is where she needs to use the key then.
Oh God, the pale man.
So the pale man is the one. The pale man is supposed to represent the church, where the church is greedy and has vast sums of wealth and
eating kids,
food available. Yeah, eats children, despite its wealth, despite its position, despite its availability of resources to aid people. It is stingy. It is greedy
and hurting people.
And so so they go in there. Ophelia is told specifically not to eat a single thing.
She eats 2 grapes.
2 grapes.
And it's the way it happens. It seems like she's almost bewitched by all the food that's around.
Yeah.
Because despite the fact that the fairies are like pulling her and being like, no, no, he said no, she's like swatting them away.
Yeah.
And she's just like staring longingly at the food. And it also kind of points out generally how the people have been starving. The way she's looking at these grapes as if she's bewitched by this food and just being like, if I can just take one, then it'll be okay.
But you can't have it.
But you can't. Yeah, you can't. And then it wakes up the pale man. And then she has to basically run for her life.
Yeah, she does end up escaping.
At the,
and then she ends up getting admonished by the fawn and told that she should have listened to what he had to say and that she was banished essentially.
Yeah, he's basically like, you're not the one we're looking for. He just flipped, actually. But 2 of the fairies got eaten.
Yeah.
And he was just super angry at her and left her. He was just like, obviously you're not the one. This isn't going to work. And leave. But this is after he gave her the mandrake root, which he said, if you put this you take care of it and put it under your mother's bed, she'll get better. Which she immediately started getting a little bit better.
Oh, mercy, because she dies during childbirth.
Yeah. So what happens is while she's tending to the mandrake, Vidal's already in super paranoid mode.
Yeah.
Because they just caught the spy and he realized, because the doctor euthanized the guy who was tortured because the guy just basically begged him to kill him. So he's seeing things that aren't there kind of thing, and he's super hyper aware of spies and something's going on. So he hears the thumping of her going upstairs and immediately goes upstairs and sees her like crawling under the bed and just like freaking out. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I always thought that was weird because it's like, it's not like she's doing, it's just a root.
Yeah.
To them it just looks like there's a root soaked in milk under the bed. And I'm like,
it's rotting milk at that point.
Yeah.
Because he even smells it.
Yeah, it is rotting milk, but she's coming in to change it. That's the thing. And he just freaks out. He's like, what are you doing? What, like poisoning your mother? And it's just like, obviously not. Like, she's not she's not that kind of kid.
But the stress of this, because then Kahneman has to talk to Ophelia about it, and you can tell she's like pained, and that's essentially when she starts going into labor.
Yeah. But also the mom kind of lets something slip up. Obviously her true feelings about the relationship and the marriage, because she says to Carmen, like, magic doesn't exist. It doesn't exist for me.
Yeah.
As if saying like these things that make like magic that will make life better, it doesn't exist. Like, I'm not going to have a good life. I've already come to terms with it. Like, none of that stuff is real. You can't believe in it. There is no happy ending kind of thing. And just, that's kind of what I got just from that phrase of saying, when she says magic doesn't exist, it definitely doesn't exist for me. That's the moment where you realize that she knows that she is not happy.
Yeah, she's
not going to be happy.
She's just doing this for her daughter.
Yeah.
She's trying to give her a life on there. She doesn't care what it takes for it on there. And sometimes you will make decisions you're not fond of.
But it's like she's kind of deluding herself, because he already doesn't care about Ophelia. He only cares about his son.
Yeah.
So it's
he tolerates
he tolerates her.
But it still might be a better chance,
that's true.
Which might be something she's even willing to pony up for.
Yeah.
Even the circumstances. It's like might be the best she could hope for her daughter.
That's true.
Which is shitty, but that's the type of decision you make in wartime sometimes.
Yeah, as a parent, you gotta make some really tough decisions to take care of your kids. But yeah, so she dies in childbirth. and the son is born, and of course, the captain only has eyes for the boy. He doesn't care about Ophelia anymore. He's already super suspicious of her.
Mm-hmm.
He finds out about Mercedes, and Mercedes is like, okay, we're gonna leave.
Yeah.
She's got to get out because he knows. And then Ophelia basically begs Mercedes to take her with her, and they get caught.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course they get caught because he's super hyper aware right now.
He knew they were going to run. Or he knew
Mercedes
was going to run. He didn't know Ophelia was going to go with her, and that's when it's just like, how long have you known? Making fun of me, or not making fun of me, but
yeah. He's like, have you guys been laughing about me?
Yeah.
About like knowing that I have this spy and not being able to do anything.
Yeah. So
and it's just like, you're taking this out on a kid, like that's not the thing. He doesn't expect her to say anything. Yeah. He's just venting at this point.
Well, even Mercedes, when she's about to be tortured, essentially, because he starts giving the exact same speech that he gave to the stutterer guy. About like, starts with a hammer again. It's just like,
but she's not afraid of him.
No, that's the big difference. Not afraid of her, but also, or Mercedes mentions it to him. It's just like,
yeah, I've been under you all this just because
I'm a woman.
Because I'm a woman, I've been under you this whole time. You never expected. He's like, oh yes, pride. I guess pride is my downfall. And it's then like, even then he turns his back on her again.
Yeah, it's not pride. It's arrogance.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
He says it's pride, but it's definitely he's arrogant. He's like, I have her. There's no way for her to get out. But we've seen this knife. She's been carrying around this knife the whole time. Mm-hmm. She uses it to cut her way free and just starts stabbing at him.
Yeah. Gets him in I think it was the stomach, then the shoulder, and then he's about to throttle her, and he gets it and manages to hold the knife into his mouth.
Yeah.
And then splits his lip open. She gets away again, and this time she makes it because even though she's about to be she's surrounded by those on horse, which is surefire death. The reinforcements arrive. This is when Mercedes meets Pedro again. Small happy reunion, and then the fighting starts. The fawn comes back and makes promises to Ophelia. It's like, you can redeem yourself if you bring your little brother.
Yeah. Poor little Ophelia, just trusting anybody who'll tell her nice things.
Yeah. Everything's coming to a head at this point.
Yeah. She drugs Vidal, but he just keeps going. And that's pure stubbornness. And he almost does pass out, but he just pushes through it. So she runs into the labyrinth with the baby, and he chases her. And this is where we see that, it might be just her imagination, because she's talking to the fawn, because the fawn says, okay, you have to give some of your blood.
No, it'll just take a little bit of blood. It has to be innocent blood. So we'll just take a little. Why are you holding the knife? It's like, it's just a prick. We'll just take a little bit of blood.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I won't let you hurt him. It's just like, you will renounce your title, your right to princessness, to be by your father's side, the Sun King or whatever.
And she says, yeah, I'm not going to hurt my little brother just for that.
Then you renounce? It's like, yes, I do. And this is when Vidal turns the corner of the labyrinth and sees her basically talking to the air.
Yeah.
Walks up to Ophelia, takes the baby, and
cold blood shoots her. Yeah. Once again, unflinchingly, no expression.
Yeah, and just walks out. He's then, of course, greeted by all the rebels, who take the baby from him because he's completely fucking surrounded. And he's like, when my son is old enough, tell him that his father. It's like, no, father, he will not even know your name. And then they just fucking shoot him in the face.
You can see, and that's when it kind of comes to a head. Like, in his expression, he realizes, like, damn, like, he just has that kind of thing of, he's like, my legacy won't live on, and it's like, yeah, it won't.
But yeah, it's like this overemphasis, this machismo, and it's also his profound arrogance in seeing that.
Just like, I can't have anything but a son.
Yeah.
Of like, my son will know my accomplishments and live on in my accomplishments, to be my legacy and all that.
Which is very much the parallel of Vidal's existence, to a degree. But at the same time, he's trying to erase his father.
Yeah.
Which is...
And only be remembered by his, what he does.
Yeah.
Which...
It's a weird... It's a good person. Well, I guess it emphasizes a cycle that is constantly erasing the previous generation's efforts.
Yeah.
On there. Which is, nationalism.
Yeah.
So Ophelia's death fuse, as we come back to the very beginning of the film, as she lays dying, not the band, or as I lay dying is the band, I'm sorry. And
she has her last delusion, basically.
yeah, or she's smiling as she does.
Yeah. So it's kind of like happy ending, sorta.
Fuck. War sucks.
Yeah, war sucks and there's no happy ending kind of thing. Um, but yeah, so she has this final delusion of her standing in front of the her father, the king,
Mm-hmm.
and the queen, who looks very suspiciously like her mother, who
Yep.
is also holding a child,
Her little brother.
her little brother. So it's her last kind of hallucination, though we don't know if this was hallucination or not. Um,
You're dying. It's like, yeah.
yeah, you're dying, and why not die thinking something positive?
Yeah.
At the very least. So, you know, we get the whole like the dichotomy of like when she's dying, she see everything's bright and colorful and gold, and they're
Yep.
shining. And then we cut back to real life where everything's dark and people are around her crying, and it really sucks because it's just like, is it a happy ending? I mean, she had her last illusion that made her feel happy, but she's still a dead child. Like,
welcome to war.
Yeah, that was bad. So, final thoughts. I love this movie.
Read up on the Spanish Civil War if you're interested on it. I won't say I'm an authority on it. I certainly am not.
Yeah, this is just what we could have.
But this movie is much deeper. If you actually understand the history of the Spanish Civil War, just even a moderate degree, like seeing those metaphors in there, and then seeing the trauma that Ophelia has to deal with and how she copes with it, as well as like what the individual like challenges she has to face and visions she has and what they mean, parallel the Spanish Civil War, is very interesting, I think. And it's not just like, oh, this is critical analysis type stuff. It makes it better. That's artist fucking intent. It's part of it. You can't ignore it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's also war through a child's imagination.
Yeah.
And how even war seeps into even her fantasies. But it's when you're a kid, it's you conquering things. It's you kind of fighting those things. So, but it's still really terrifying how she views it. And I really enjoy this movie. Like, even the first time I watched it without knowing anything about the Spanish Civil War, and then later on watching it, knowing about the Spanish Civil War, it's the symbolism is very good. And obviously, I said before, the makeup and the practical effects are very, very good. And overall, the story is good. Everything ties in with each other. There's no real kind of loose ends. There's no useless dialogue in the movie, which Alex and I prefer. If there's no useless dialogue in movies, that's the one thing we really do not like. But I would definitely watch this movie over and over again. Find it somewhere so you can see it, and maybe look up the Spanish War before you watch it. It'll make things a lot easier to understand.
Definitely. Between this and Devil's Backbone, they're both very. I would argue they're both very serious films, despite, especially Pan's Labyrinth gets a lot of credit for its visual aesthetic, which is amazing, but it does have a very serious undertone regarding its influence of the Spanish Civil War. I feel like Devil's Backbone is definitely the more straight-on one to a degree of the two, whereas in Pan's Labyrinth, had you never known about it, you probably would never even realized it if you weren't familiar with it. But regardless, give them both a watch. To lighten the mood, we'll actually go back a few years because Pan's Labyrinth is 2008, but Hellboy, 2004. So let's see what the middle period is more like for Guillermo. We'll be right back after a small break.
Yeah. And welcome back. So now we are going to talk about the happy movie, Hellboy.
Yes, the happy movie where we fight an elder god, or where there are seven elder gods. I believe technically Hellboy is one of them.
Don't take this away from me.
I wanted this movie. It's like this is the better departure compared to the first two, which are explicitly about the Spanish Civil War and man's inhumanity to man, and this is just a visual fun romp. Actually, not too much heavy metaphor wagging, if any, and
there's a lot of throw a lot of random
There's,
religious things in there. They mix all that stuff up.
I mean, it's supposed to be building the supernatural backdrop of it, and does a good job of not making it like, not talking about it in like an excessive degree where it's trying to like, okay, so Hitler wasn't defeated until this year. It's like, and I like how the dude who brings it up is like, wait, no, he was defeated this year. It's like, oh, was he now? Like he's just like the doctor's just admonishing him, like, yeah, it's cute. It's cute that you believe that.
Yeah, it's like I sighed hard in that
Yeah.
line.
The movie itself does a good job in
Yeah.
regards to its own world building without taking itself too seriously.
That's true.
And that's a testament to the writing.
Yeah.
So Hellboy is the story of a
Comic book.
of a boy from hell.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay, not to belabor it.
Wow, way to water that down to the most basic part.
That's the point. Well, so Dr. Broom, who is our protagonist, we meet in the towards the end of the original end of World War II.
The real end.
The real end. And
or was it?
The Nazis want a miracle, and they have enlisted Rasputin to open a portal and supposedly have the 7 elder gods that wait out, sleeping entrapped in crystal, and somehow help them, because gods will totally do that for you if you ask for a solid after freeing them.
Right? Just like do me a solid and just kind of destroy this world for me.
Yeah.
But leave me intact.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Rasputin gets sucked through the portal. He is foiled by the good old Americans and Dr. Broom, who's of course Brit. At least the guy that got to play him, who can. God, his acting was awful. The young Dr. Broom, I should say.
Yeah. Looked very much like him.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the casting.
Yeah, that was really impressive. Like for a second, I was like, did they do that with makeup, or was that actually a different person?
They did it with makeup. They did a great fucking job. But,
yeah.
But anyway, the portal. Dr. Broom's just like, no, the portal was open too long. Something must have come through.
Yeah.
Sure enough, red monkey.
Yeah.
As he keep.
Yeah, they call him. He's referred to as a red monkey quite a bit. But yeah, there was this line that I thought was really funny. So he asked the guy, he's like, "You a Catholic?" Yeah, and he hands him the soldier the rosary, and then the soldier's like, "Nah, I think you're gonna need this," and hands him a gun. And I was like, I feel like the gun is a little bit more useful in this situation. I also think it's really funny how in these movies they always blame Hitler being so successful on the supernatural instead of just how shitty people are.
But there was a massive amount of occult information that happened that they did channel that as part of the propaganda wing.
Yeah, he did very much believe in the occult from what we can tell. But I
not that History Channel shit.
Yeah.
Fuck you, History Channel.
What's wrong with the History Channel?
You threw us under the bus. You had one job.
What? Anyway, but I do like how a lot of American movies will take that one little snippet of like, oh, he believed in the occult, and he was like, oh, it's all right to do this, and be like, yes, it was totally supernatural things that made him win the war. It was like it was his deals with the devil and supernatural and, and aliens and scientists.
In this world, they found the spear of Longinus, and it showcased just casually in the halls of the BPRD, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense.
Yeah.
So after Rasputin is foiled and we discover Hellboy as a infant of sorts, we cut to the
future. Really likes baby Ruths.
Yes, because Broom gave him one to lure him out, so he still eats them.
Those are gross.
So we cut to the modern era, where we're introduced to a man by the name of Myers, who is starting his new job at the BPRD, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense. The bureau where Dr. Broom still works, or now works, I guess, because he's probably part of its inception, where they house all sorts of old occult items and various reliquaries and things of that nature.
And freaks.
Yeah, the 3 of them.
The 2 of them. One of them is not living there at the time.
Which bothers me, but we'll get to that in a minute. So we're introduced that Myers is taking over the role of caretaker for Hellboy. Makes it seem like he's more of a fucking secretary than anything else, and they kind of take the piss out of it and itself a lot. and moments where it feels like they would have addressed it, they just kind of gloss over. So it makes it
Yeah.
really weird. Meyer, in fairness, I think is meant to be more of our audience surrogate character.
Yeah. Well, he's the
So someone who gets
information for the audience. But like, and most movies tend to have that, a person who's just coming in so that we'll have a reason to explain what's going on to the audience.
Well,
that's his only job, really.
Yeah, in fairness. I mean, they do try to make some effort to characterize him in some regards, but I mean,
they're very lazy about it. But it doesn't matter. We're not here for him.
That's fair. During this, we actually get a few transitions back.
Hellboy keeps breaking out.
He keeps breaking out because he's trying to reach Liz, which is somebody who used to work with him, but no longer does because she's pyrokinetic, and sometimes she has fits, which cause her to blow up. Which bothers me because it's just like, I think it's odd. It's like, no, if this government branch
they're not letting her out.
They're not letting her out.
That's yeah.
It's not an
if
option.
I know anything about American military, they're not letting something like that just wander around.
Yeah.
That, I mean, even not even as like a safety thing, just like you are a weapon.
Yeah.
That is not being utilized to the fullest.
Heck, we'll if anything, they would just give her the implied notion that she was in some control. It's like,
well, she's being watched.
Yeah, constantly. She's constantly being watched, but it's just like she wouldn't have been allowed to leave.
Yeah, but I think that's like, obviously she's being watched in the hospital that she's in because they know where she is at all times. But because it's helping her control her powers, they're letting her believe that she, because she talks about how I've left 13 times, but I've always come back, kind of thing. It's just like, yeah, we know you're going to come back. That's why we let you believe that you're able to walk out.
Yeah.
And they always know where she is anyway. Yeah. But we first see Abe Sapien, who's my favorite character. Yeah, I even have I have a little comic character kind of modeled after him. He's a lot creepier in the comics. But we get introduced to him as kind of, he's slightly emotionless, but he's like the quirky kind of fun sidekick. Mm-hmm. And
he's very facts driven, since I mean he has a kind of weird not telepathy. He can find the history of objects and by just touching them. Yeah. He can sense what has happened around them and to them by touching them. Also, amazing transition shot when he first does that in the museum when they're hunting the creatures.
Yeah, so they get a call because some supernatural stuff, some paranormal stuff's going on in a museum, and it turns out that Rasputin, after he's resurrected in the shortest ritual I've ever seen in my life.
My only concern for that is just like, why the fuck did we wait 60 years?
Yeah.
To do this?
Well, maybe they were looking.
Elsa had the book.
She had the book, but she didn't. Maybe they were looking the whole time. We don't know.
Whatever.
We just needed a reason for this to be in modern times. But they go to the museum for the tears.
Oh, well, it's not that it's tears. So
it's the salt from 1,000 tears of hate. It's a bullshit thing.
But it was all of it's part of a grander scheme by Rasputin to lure Hellboy, because Hellboy is the key to opening up the portal again. That's why his hand is so big.
Yeah, to bringing the apocalypse.
And that's why Rasputin's like giant technoglove he has in the beginning of the thing is so large, because that's supposed to be the surrogate key.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
And so Hellboy's hand is the literal key to open it, since he is essentially, I think he's supposed to be one of the 7 gods or whatever. I don't know.
Not really fully explained. Doesn't matter.
But anyway, Rasputin releases these monsters, or rather, Cronin and Ilsa do. It was trapped inside a reliquary, inside a statue that was contained in the tears of 1,000 angels, crystallized.
Yeah, it's the salt from salt from the tears of 1,000 angels, and it's the beast Semel. Mm-hmm. Semel is the
Hound of Resurrection.
Hound of Resurrection. Like literally every time you kill him, he multiplies.
Well, at least that's the thing. It's like I'm curious, like if it was just a singular resurrection originally, because Rasputin even says, "I promised you this, that every time you die, 2 will rise."
Yeah.
And we know Rasputin in this film is supposed to be very powerful, because he said he's died multiple times, and every time he's come back, he brings a little bit more of the Elder God's power with him.
Oh.
So maybe
Mm-hmm.
he bestowed that upon Samuel to be able to double himself as opposed to just
But he
straight.
said that in the book, though. He's called the
I mean, he's the Hound of
the
Resurrection,
Hand of
yes.
Resurrection anyway. So he's gonna come back alive anyway.
Yeah, but now
as
there's
long as
two.
he's not. Yeah, now there's two, and then eventually there's hundreds.
Oh.
So of course Hellboy gets reckless and seen
Again.
when he's chasing them around the city, and that brings the head of the FBI down on them, and
Such an ineffectual shit.
he's he's like,
it's like, I'm in charge.
Yeah,
it's like, for some, how do you
I don't like him.
How do you have your job? It's like, how do you have your job if you can't mitigate people very well in general? Especially when you're supposed to be the spin man.
Yeah, he's the spin guy, so he should have a better relationship than what he has with the Bureau. He doesn't seem to have a very good relationship with the Bureau. No one really respects him there.
I think it's funny also that we have humans as backup. It's just like, so how rare. I do appreciate that Hellboy 2 addresses this to some degree, because it's like, how is it there's only this few people? Like, there seems to be an entire, like, hidden world, if it were. It's like, no, they are hidden for a reason.
Yeah.
But it's just like, because they have so few recruits, it's like, you got Abe, you got Liz, you got Hellboy. Fucking humans, man. Like, why aren't they in mech suits?
Yeah. Like, the humans basically just have...
They're there to be body counting this.
Regular pistols.
Oh, they had the one guy who's charging some shit up, and they like, all right. Well,
yeah, we never get to see that gun charge off. I was really pissed about that. I was like, the only person with a real weapon that could actually fight against monsters, and we never actually see it fire.
Yeah. I mean, we're not here for them. There are red shirts. I felt bad for Lime. Who dies later on. It's like, come on, Lime. And the director's just like, stay. And then Lime just dies.
Like, oh, should have listened to Hellboy.
Yeah.
It's like, but he's also, the director's very much like, oh, Hellboy doesn't know what he's doing. You're going to shut this down. I was like, and then do what? Like, that supernatural things aren't going to stop happening. So if you don't have Hellboy to fight them, who the hell is going to fight them?
The humans get destroyed. They don't seem to have any chance of a fight. So it's just like, why are you there? What are you talking about? You don't need him. It's like, but he does talk.
Definitely need him.
Well, he does mention it's just like, we need you because you have an insight, and it's like, so it's like you're talking him up, but you're still fucking useless.
Yeah, he's talking him up, and literally within the same sentence, he's insulting him and being like, well, that's only why we need you. And, when all the monsters are gone, they will get rid of you. And I was like, I think it's really cute that you think that that's how monsters work. They'll just, one day there just won't be any left. Aww.
Yeah.
Aww, how adorable.
This world,
and very optimistic of you.
Yeah, this world existed for 4 years, apparently. And it comes up later, too.
Yeah.
No, or rather, the next film.
Which is also good.
Yes.
I also very much enjoyed Hellboy 2. I usually don't enjoy sequels all that much, but this one I really enjoyed.
I would have loved a third film.
Me too. I think we were all kind of waiting for it. It never happened.
Anyway.
But yeah, so yeah, we get the chase and Samuel and more of Rasputin just kind of pulling the strings in the background. So he makes Liz have a dream of, I guess, the first time her powers really manifested, that she killed someone, and she just blows up the hospital that she's in, which brings her back to the Bureau.
Yeah. And she's kind of sullen, as you would be, after, probably reconciling the past, probably 15 years of you had murdered a bunch of kids and a bunch of other people around you, and now you're an adult and it's happened again, and you've murdered a bunch of kids. Well, no, other people in therapy.
Yeah. Especially when she thought she was getting better.
Yeah.
Like, she had this huge relapse that...
I kind of weirded out by how blasé they're about it. It's just like, she should never have been out to begin with.
Yeah, I agree. And they really don't say anything about the fact that she killed all those people in the hospital.
I'm sure that place had at least 100, 200 people.
Because she goes out for coffee with Myers. Myers, despite knowing that Hellboy is ridiculously in love with Liz feels very deeply for Hellboy. Still is like, I'm still going to take her out and see if I have a chance, kind of thing. And he knows he doesn't.
Yeah.
But he's just kind of holding on to it just a little, which kind of, I hate that.
At first it seems like he's a wingman extraordinaire, and then it's just like, look at his arm. when Hellboy
Yeah,
stalks him.
because he's even he's like, he's such a great guy, and it seems like he's talking him up and being like, you should give him a chance, but then he's like, oh,
Doing
I'm
the
just gonna
arm over the
put my arm around
shoulder.
her and take care of her kind of thing, and you're just like, oh, yeah. And then even Liz is like, yeah, all guys are the same. Yeah.
Well, that comes out later, but
Yeah.
yeah, still.
Yeah, she is. Because it must be frustrating. Well, it is frustrating when it's just like, this guy likes you, and you're just like, I'm not here for you. And he's like, but do I have a chance? No, you don't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
In the transition, though, before this had happened, they go. Broom instructs Hellboy to go back to the place where they fought Samael because um, Samael in the original fight laid eggs in his arm, so they had to go make sure that they were fine. And at this time,
It's in the subway.
yeah, it's in the subway.
Yeah.
At this time, this is where um, Clay dies, who is his original handler, essentially.
Yeah, his buddy.
And he's kind of broken up about it. Two other agents have died. They don't know if I think I don't. They never say if Clay actually ends up dying. They say he probably won't make it through the night.
Yeah.
But Abe gets injured as well. He's in recovery.
And then we don't see Abe for the rest of the movie, sadly.
Yeah. And then we get back to, and that's when Liz has the explosion. She comes back again. It's just like, oh, Hellboy's like, he's distressed because he just lost one of his friend, but he's happy because Liz is back as well, and like both boosting up Myers, like, you did it, buddy.
Yeah, but right before that, he had a rage fit against the director.
Oh yeah.
And so everybody's like, yeah, still the same. And so we didn't really address this, but they said Hellboy is supposed to be in his 20s because he grows. He ages slower. Hellboy acts more like a 15-year-old than his 20s. He's extremely childish.
I would say early 20s.
Very short-sighted. He has like anger fits. Like he can't control his emotions.
Yeah. I do appreciate the film takes the time to take the piss out of him constantly, because even when
he gets his ass kicked.
Yeah, does he always go in alone when Myers and Abe are with him at the museum? It's just like, yeah, it's this whole tragic, lonely hero thing. And fucking Abe
is just like, just let him do it.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm so sick of this bullshit.
Abe's like, he's my friend, so.
I think that's what helps a lot of the movie too, is that it does constantly take the piss out of itself. Because we're wrong, yeah, Hellboy is definitely an immature character, but it's a very
not that immature in the comics. Not as immature as the movie makes him. But.
I guess it's given opportunity to seem like he's growing, but
yeah.
But it was also well written enough that it's a really fine line between making somebody who's just an entitled nice guy and someone who's just like kind of at odds with his. He seems to be more at odds with his place in the world, doesn't it? Because like he can't fit in.
Yeah, he's never going to be able to fit in because he's a giant red devil.
Yeah.
And he's in love with, and Liz passes as a human.
Yeah.
So, she is.
She is human. She's just pyrokinetic.
She is a human. She's pyrokinetic, so she can still walk around and go do things, which she's
immune to his fire.
Yeah, well, he's immune to her fire.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. He's immune to her fire.
Yeah, so so it's not dangerous for him to be around her, which it's kind of cute because it's like, oh, they perfectly fit together because he's immune to fire. But at the same time, it's just like, you can tell sometimes she's just like, just grow the fuck up, which, ladies, am I right?
So after this train scene, because Clay is killed by Cronin, who then winds himself down, gets picked up by the Bureau, and then Broom dissects him, essentially. Yeah. And diagnoses him as like apparently Cronin suffered from like some sort of weird extreme masochism, removed his upper lip, surgically removed his own eyelids,
and he was addicted to surgical procedures,
and removed most of, well, it's like his blood has all but dried up, and it's like sand comes out of him, which is confusing, but whatever. It's a fantasy world, which is the aesthetic is cool. It's terrifying.
It's not hard to believe in this world,
yeah,
because of like all the supernatural shit that's going on.
Clockwork keeping you up at night, that would suck.
He just winds himself down.
Who starts you up again? Anyway, so he comes back. He comes back too again, even though it seemed like he had died, because basically, imagine he doesn't have a pulse anymore anyway. Rasputin is there with Dr. Broom, and Cronin is there, of course, in full get up. It's like, we need him. We want him. And the only clue he's going to have is the one on you. And he'll find it on the late Dr. Brown.
Because of that, of course, then the director takes the spin guy takes over, and they of course follow all the little breadcrumbs and follow all the clues to where Rasputin is, and then we end up with them. The cutest little thing is the half skeleton.
Yeah, it's just like, where do we go? It's just like, let me ask for directions. Find the corpse, raise him up. It's like, if I had legs, I'd kick your ass.
Right? It's so funny. I like those little moments in the movie. I think there was just enough of them that I didn't get sick of the comedy in the movie. And
it's like, here's a reliquary. It's Saint Dionysus. I think it's his pinky. It's like those little, every little bit that they reference on there is just like, that's a nice supernatural bit because they're woven into it rather than just like kind of be like, this is this, and then giving like a 10-minute explanation for everything.
Yeah,
it's not holding your hand that much. It kind of leaves a lot to your imagination, but makes it enough mystical enough to be like intriguing. So, but they get down there. It's like, I do appreciate that there's an effort. It's like, even Hellboy's like, okay, I've lost people. We need to work this through. All right, we'll be fine if we stick together. And then the room separates.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And it's like, no. Why must it always be separation? And it's like, yeah, it's just like the easiest way to build tension. Make people separate. But yeah, so they're going around, and once again, I have to ask, who builds this shit?
People.
Seriously, who builds all these traps?
Cultists.
Why? Why?
They worship an elder
That place
god.
is fucking huge, though.
It's elder gods.
I don't care how many elder gods you're worshiping. What they built is impossible. That place is nearly bottomless when they go into it. And the gears are the size of freaking houses. Who built that shit?
Cultists.
Cultists are not supernatural
We're in a high
beings.
fantasy movie. Your high crap question is bullshit in a fantasy movie. You can have that in movies that are trying to be realistic.
God, in pirate movies too, there's always fucking traps. They look like, who? Who took all this time to build this shit? Who? Tell me. God, I want to shake their hand. Be like, you put way too much effort for something that people may or may not ever discover.
So, Liz and Meyer stuck together with a red shirt.
They don't have names.
Yeah, Lime had a name.
Yeah.
Poor
Lime had 2 minutes of screen time.
Not even that. It's being generous. Yeah, there's a tug of war between the director and Hellboy. It's just like, no, you stay. Let's go back. You can break down the door. It's like, Lime, come here. Because Hellboy actually knows his name. And then Lime dies. It's like, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Hellboy saves.
Thanks, director.
Yeah. Hellboy saves the director, and they hear music. And it's where Cronin's base is. And there's a small fight, which is very satisfying, I think. It's not like extremely epic. Like, it's not Jackie Chan, as I will always say.
Yeah.
In this case, it's not even trying to be. And I appreciate that, because Hellboy's a brute. He's a brute fighter.
Yeah, he's not there's no need for any kind of martial arts or anything. It's just like, if I can punch it, I punch it. If I can throw it, I throw it.
But one of my favorite lines is just like, oh, so I'm not that good a shot, but this I forgot the name of his gun. Fires really big bullets.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a ridiculously large pistol.
Yeah, love it. He manages to kill Cronin by dropping him into his own spike pit and then dropping a giant gear on top of him.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's like, well, he might live through this, but he's definitely not getting up.
Yeah.
That's all we can count on. So, yeah, it's a very satisfying fight.
Yeah. Liz and Meyer.
I love Cronin's design. Oh,
yeah, I love
so good.
What do you call it? So, Liz and Meyer are separated, and they end up finding the nest of Samaels.
Oh, the Samael things.
And our red shirt that was with them, of course, dies before he can trigger his explosives. Yeah. Useless. Not that well, Liz would have been probably fine, but
Meyer. Oh yeah, Myers would have definitely been dead. But I feel like you're probably not going to live going into this anyway. Yeah. But
Hellboy breaks through the floor of the above chamber because that's where he is. Smashes through. Meyer slaps Liz to get her to flame
like,
on.
Hit me. It's like, okay. He's very much like, what?
That's hot.
That's the funny thing is though, when it happens, you can tell. It's like obviously Myers is not the guy for you. If you have to be like hit me, he'll be like, "What? No, sorry,
Pull
not
my
your
hair,
type."
smack my ass.
Then we finally get to see Liz's fire. Yay! Another thing of we have badass characters who really don't do that much.
No, I mean,
She has one time where she fights in the whole movie.
yeah, I mean the same thing happens in 2.
One
Well,
time.
except for our final fight. We actually got a proper final fight in 2 compared to this, where it's just like really the most epic things are the Cronin fight, which is short, and the Liz fight, which is also short, because our Elder God fight is tiny.
Yeah, the Elder God fight is. He's like, he cuts off a couple tentacles, gets eaten, blows it up. And I even wrote my notes and I was like, wow, that was not as satisfying as I thought it would be.
So after that, they keep pushing through. I can't remember.
Well, after the fire,
yeah,
they're all passed out, and Rasputin
for some reason
has captured and declothed.
Yeah. Liz.
Sorry, just Liz. I don't know why she needs to be stripped naked. She's not being sacrificed for anything.
Yeah, her soul's just going to get sucked out into the Elder God that's channeled through him. That's also part of the other dimension. That's confusing. Anyway, so Hellboy is the key. That's what his big hand is. It is the key to opening up the portal. He has to unlock both of the locks with his hand on there.
Yeah.
Rasputin takes her soul. For some reason, we left Myers alive and took his explosive with us.
She takes the explosive and like, thank you for these. I was like, was there a plan for them? I don't know why you're thinking them.
Yeah.
But leaves Myers completely awake and conscious because bad guys need to have an audience.
It's true. It's like, why did you waste?
That was the only reason they wanted an audience, because she got it, and that was really satisfying when she got her ass kicked. God, I'm so annoyed with that lady.
Yeah.
Her stupid sledgehammer.
But they're used to the afterlife.
He should have been dead when he got hit with that, though. It's like, people have died from getting hit with a baseball bat. I'm pretty sure you're going to die from getting hit with a sledgehammer. People have died
from falling 5 feet.
Yeah. People have died from falling downstairs.
People have died falling on the curb of the street. Yeah. That's why it's like, you hit a street fight, you knock somebody out, you better call the cops immediately.
Yeah.
Because if that person dies, you're probably going to go to prison.
Exactly. It's just like, he should not have been alive, let alone conscious.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then Hellboy's horns grow back.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good. Freaking.
Amazing design. Yeah,
the only CG part that was actually good.
It's like, is that why he's bald on top? Because of his crown of flame?
Yeah, it's the crown of flame that's making him bald. There we go. That's why he has a receding hairline.
I do appreciate the tiny Japanese top knot in the back, or the like sumo thing in the back.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even notice that.
It's like curled into itself, like a sumo knot.
Oh, that's cute. Maybe it does look like that in the comics. He tried to stick very close to the comic designs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then he's like, for her, and unlocks, and I was like, what do you mean for her? Her soul's definitely been sucked out already.
Yeah, or so because he's a channel to the gods, so he like sucked her soul out, and it's like his soul's with them now.
Okay, so if you go to the gods, you can get it, and it's a very half-assed reason to get him to open the door.
And even then, he's just like, fuck that, no. Because we needed somebody to call him back, so that's why Myers is here.
Yeah, he uses the rosary to burn his hand and burn some sense back in him, I guess.
Realizes who he is and breaks off his motherfucking horns by hand.
Yeah, I was like, shouldn't that hurt?
And then stabs Rasputin with his fucking horns.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was very satisfying.
And Rasputin mentions it earlier that anytime he's died, he's always brought a little bit more of the god's power back with him. And in this case, this time, he actually brought a god with him. Or at least a portion of a god with him. A
portion of a god. A very, not that strong portion.
Yeah. Because it can still die to conventional explosives.
Yeah.
Or whatever the hell.
I mean, it was like 10 grenades on that thing.
Yeah. Well, there's some special grenade.
Ooh, special supernatural grenade.
Yeah. But,
who cares?
But yeah, so
Liz comes back to life.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Well, he basically was like, "Hey, you there on the other side? Give her back. So if you don't, I'll cross over, and then you'll be sorry." Mm. It's schmaltz, but it's fun.
It's so schmaltz.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where our movie ends.
Yeah, we don't really need anything.
No,
nothing else makes any sense. Myers doesn't make it to the second movie, which
I'm fine.
That's fine.
He was our audience surrogate to bring us into the world, and
sadly, the director does, but whatever. We can't all get what we want.
We needed him. I didn't like him, but we needed him. Unless if we had gotten like a third supernatural person that was an audience surrogate.
Yeah,
someone who just got powers or something.
That would have been better. Yeah. But we also got a whole fairy world.
Yeah.
So an underground
which is
invisible
dope.
world, which was really cool. And I was just like, yeah, just
But we're here about Hellboy 1.
yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I mean, I still like this one.
No more double features.
Still like this one.
This
is still great. So final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Love the movie. Love Guillermo Del Toro as the director. I absolutely adore his practical effects. The CG, well, I mean, it's better in Pacific Rim, but not so much in these movies.
Well,
but,
I mean, this is early CG
by
today's standards.
CG, but definitely in his movies, practical effects trumps over computer graphics, and the stories are good. He ties things very well into each other, and I genuinely enjoy it. You can tell that for Guillermo del Toro, I feel like every movie that he makes he wants it to be better than the previous one. He doesn't waste films.
No.
When he does it, he puts a lot of effort.
No one intends to waste a film, but sometimes it happens anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just sometimes it just happens.
We've seen films that it's just like the director was like, yeah, this is a paycheck.
Anyway,
yeah,
Hellboy's a great movie. We probably should have put the fairy movie with the teeth in it, but whatever. The two, not many people have ever watched Devil's Backbone, honestly, and I feel like it's a good movie to get a sense of Guillermo as a director, and it definitely ties in, especially to Pan's Labyrinth, because they're the same subject matter to a degree, but they're different approaches, and I think it's nice to see that kind of contrast for it. And then Hellboy, because Lord knows I need to fucking come down from that.
Yeah, from that depression.
Or come up from that place, because that is a dark fucking place. They're great films. Hellboy is a nice solid romp. It doesn't feel like it's talking down to you or talking up itself in an arrogant, like, you don't know about this stuff? Fuck you. It's good. It's fun. Enjoy it. And by all means, watch the second one, because they're both fun. So, join us next week.
Well, not next week. We might be taking a break next week.
Yeah, seriously, I might be taking a break.
We might be taking it. But the next episode will be our Christmas episodes, because we're going into December. I don't know why you don't like it. Boy. We're going to try not to have a lot of comedy stuff.
I worked retail for 10 years.
Oh, yeah. So you know the horrors of Christmas.
You know what? People don't bother me. It's fucking Christmas music.
Oh, yeah. It's the constant loop of songs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But,
join us when we get back at some point. Till then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever the hell you may be. Take care.
Goodbye.